The first week of the legislative session was a brutal one for Florida's working families. In a single week, we saw legislation that will slash benefits for Florida's unemployed so that businesses could get another tax cut, a tax increase on our teachers, firefighters, police officers, and public sector workers, and a bill that would silence Florida's unions in the future. The week began with a hearing on Senate Bill 830. This legislation, filed by Senator John Thrasher, would make it illegal for public employers to process the voluntary dues deductions for union members and make it nearly impossible for unions to use resources to engage in politics and legislative activity. On Monday, over 50 labor activists and students gathered outside the committee room where Senate Bill 830 was being considered, their mouths taped shut in silent protest to what amounted to a worker gag bill for the state of Florida.
My name is James Langley. I'm a machinist member out of Pensacola, Florida, Local Lodge 2777. And we're here to stand against the Bill 830 that's trying to silence union members from being able to vote for who they want to vote for and support them.
The measure was not taken as the clock ran down, but it will be back in the same committee on Monday. Just 2 days later, with only 48 hours' notice, the House took up their version of the bill, HB 1021, by Representative Dorworth, at the same time that the legislation imposing a new tax on public sector workers was being considered in the Senate. Workers filled the room as one firefighter, one teacher, and one police officer spoke in opposition. When the three finished, the group stood as one and exited the chamber, leaving only the big business lobbyists in the room. The room, filled with special interest lobbyists, with no one representing workers and their families, is exactly what the legislative process will look like if this bill passes. Also on Thursday, after weeks of public hearings where hundreds of firefighters, teachers, police officers, state workers, and pensions experts testified as to the strength, sustainability, and low cost of the Florida retirement system, a Senate committee approves SB 1130, which will raise taxes on all public sector workers in order to balance the budget and fund tax breaks for big businesses and the state's most wealthy residents. There was a bright spot, however. On Tuesday, over 500 local Tallahasseans joined 15,000 Floridians in 32 cities around the state for Awake the State rallies. As Floridians are getting a good look at Rick Scott and the policies of the new leadership in the Florida legislature, their policies of continuing high ed tax cuts while slashing school budgets by $3.3 billion, eliminating programs for disabled veterans, canceling our long-term plans to save the Everglades, they don't like what they are seeing.
The budget crisis we are facing is not a natural disaster. It's not a hurricane. It's not a tornado. It's not an earthquake. It was by design. They did this to us on purpose.
Week one was a tough week, but the Florida AFL-CIO and your working families lobby corps are working hard to represent the interests of not only union members, but all working Floridians and their families. Check back here next week for an update on all the activity for week two. Solidarity.